The desire for height and size in the midfield has dominated AFL recruiting in recent years. Every club in the country is eyeing off the next Fife, Cripps or Bontempelli. It's all been leading up to 2024, where this year's odds-on favourite for the number one pick is Josh Smillie, a 194cm midfield juggernaut. It would make Smillie the first mid over 190cm to go with the coveted number one pick. It's triggered debate over Smilie's worth, with some seeing infinite upside, while others wonder if his size and strength will convert to the big leagues. But given the stakes, I thought it time we take a deep dive into this year's most talked about player. It's round 1, 2022, and the Geelong midfield smell blood in the water. A healthy Patrick Dangerfield, Cam Guthrie and Brandon Parfitt walk to the middle of the MCG. Awaiting them is the Essendon Mosquito Fleet midfield of Zach Merritt, Darcy Parish and Dylan Shield. Before a ball is even bounced, Essendon are giving away 12 centimetres of height and even more weight in a midfield battle that will be fought largely on the inside. Geelong go on to win the clearances 51-27, the contested possession by 40, but more importantly the game by 66 points. This midfield size mismatch is an overload that recruiters call attributes to position, an area that drives clubs to find players with greater physical attributes on top of their already brilliant football skills. And it's one reason that Josh Smillie is creating so much buzz this season. Standing at 194cm already, the potential upside is enormous. Essendon would correct their fatal flaw, adding Will Setterfield and Sam Durham to their centre bounce mix. But what specifically do these bigger midfielders give you? Let's take a look at the benefits of such a frame in the midfield, starting in the centre bounce where reach can become a decisive factor. A tall mid can become the hit 2 player, taking the ball at its highest point, or using their strength to open up space. The 195cm Patrick Cripps is a master at first receive. He sits at AFL number 1 for getting first hands to the ball from his ruckman. Cripps, as well as Tom Green, have a knack of using their large bodies to free their arms and get effective disposals away. Marcus Bontempelli has his own sorcery, using his longer limbs to manipulate the ball's trajectory, knocking it to his own advantage or a teammate's. Smillie shares this contest and clearance profile too, using his frame to manipulate space and his long reach to outmaneuver opponents. He regularly gets first hands on the ball for the Eastern Rangers, driving the team forward, even kicking some long-range goals after the stoppage. But the challenge for these giant mids isn't strength or reach, where they do their best work. It's competing in the most important aspect of the game, the ground ball. What makes ground balls so important is their sheer volume, making up 2/3 of the contested possession profile. They sit as the biggest fundamental for midfielders. Ground balls are something that only the best of the best tall mids master, and it will be the biggest challenge for Josh Smillie. Smaller mids like Nick Dacos and Caleb Sarong dominate this area. Their proximity to ground level and reaction speed allow them to arrive at the ball drop quicker and dish off an effective disposal. So how do tall mids stack up in this area? Well, let's take a look. Tom Green, a 192cm mid, a player commonly compared to Smillie, averages an insane 9.7 ground balls per game, 6th in the competition. Marcus Bontempelli at 194cm averages 8.4 ground balls per game, and Cripps 8.5. The combination of beating their opponents in the air and at ground level is a huge advantage. But not all bigger-bodied mids have the full package. For context, Connor Nash, a less dexterous tall mid, only averages 5.7 ground balls per game. Will Setterfield, another tall mid at 192cm, has a career ground ball game of 5.4. So where does Josh Smillie's ground ball game sit compared to these midfield masters? He sits comfortably around the best mids in the Coates Talent League. He averages 7.9 ground balls, ranking elite amongst his peers. In the National Championships, Game 2 he excelled, grabbing 9 clearances, 14 contested possession, including 7 ground balls. But it was in the AFL Academy games where he came up against VFL players showing his ground ball skills at a higher level, with 6 against Coburg and 8 against Footscray. It was only on a wet and soggy day in Game 1 of the National Championships where Smilie's oversized frame looked a little sluggish over the ground ball. So how can we project Smillie? I think the Tom Green comparison fits Smillie perfectly. Both had regular 30-plus disposal games in the Coates Talent League, showing their endurance and work rate. In the National Championships, both dropped their productivity slightly, averaging around the 22 disposal mark. Both are elite at stoppage and give their teams a physical presence around the ball. The downside for me of this projection is neither player has a real X factor outside their size. If we look at the absolute best of the best, Cripps has a certain explosiveness from contest that Smillie doesn't yet possess, although he could with more conditioning. Bontempelli has several, including his kicking, which is amongst the best we've ever seen, and Nathan Fyfe's aerial ability is what set him apart from other mids. Interestingly, these 3 competition superstars were all seen as having flaws in their under 18 years, with Cripps famously passed up by several clubs for only running an 11 beep test. Smillie is hitting greater heights in his under 18 footy, but the real test will be the rigours of AFL footy. As I said, adding size to your midfield mix is important, but even more crucial is balance. The payoff this year will be adding the player that best complements your list. Where do you think Smillie should go in the draft? Leave your comments below.